Hello, hello, hello. This is Misha, aka Pieces of Mish, and I am back with another episode of the Pieces of Mish podcast. So today's episode is going to be a little different. I know I usually stick to one topic, and it's about spirituality, growth, or healing, or something of the sort, but I'm feeling like I want to switch it up today. One, I've been finding it a little bit challenging to find one thing to talk about because a lot has been going on, and I still do need to finish part two of my ancestors and intuition episode. I just haven't felt led to finish sharing that story. I know that probably goes against all of the consistency rules, but I already told y'all I don't follow rules. Yeah, so today I'm just going to do what I want and I'll timestamp. I think I can do that with podcasts. I'm going to timestamp so you can see the timestamps and the topic. And if you want to listen, you can listen. If you want to skip, you can skip. But that'll be the vibe for today's episode. I'm thinking about when people would comment on my Instagram stories because Instagram, if you never followed me on Instagram, I would honestly say you missed an era. You missed an era. And I am known, I don't know if they would be Instagram rants, crash outs, but I am known for making about 30-minute to 1 hour long stories. And I mean, this is straight back to back to back. I'm the person you would see the little lines on an Instagram story, and people would be like, what is Misha talking about? I've had people tell me that they just put my story on and sit their phone down and they'll wash dishes or something, like go about their day. So, like people would be like, start a podcast, but I'm like, I don't know what I want to talk about. But I'm like, okay, maybe I'll just talk about the same things that I used to talk about on my Instagram stories. While we are on the point of Instagram, let's talk about Instagram. So I am currently off of Instagram. I deleted my Farmer Mish account where I posted my gardening and farming content, which kind of transferred over to posting my yoga and meditation content as well. But I deleted that page completely and I deactivated my Pieces of Mish Instagram account. And I don't know, I can't really pinpoint what it was that led me to want to do that. I feel like it was a lot of things, first of all. For one, Instagram did not push my content. It did not push my content at all. And it's like, oh, well, Misha, you have to make quality content. You have to do this. You have to do that. I don't have those problems on any other social site. YouTube, TikTok, Zhuangshu. My content gets pushed and it's the same exact content. I've actually started taking, because I downloaded all my Farmer Mish content, and I'll reshare it on the little red book, or I've shared it on TikTok, and it's been such an easier way to build community. Like, I find other gardeners, I find other flower farmers, I'm finding people with similar interest easier on other social sites. And what I noticed with Instagram, and this is no shade to people who have followed me, but I had a creator profile, so it will show you who watch, not the individual who watches your stuff, but it will show you like the percentage of people who were your followers and who, if they were non-followers and those type of things. So you can see your analytics basically. And if my reel got, 200 views and 150 of them were followers, but I got 2 likes, why are you here? Why are you here? It just feels like on Instagram you are being watched with no engagement whatsoever. And then someone asked me, well, what's the difference? Why I still post on YouTube and why I still post on TikTok? And one, YouTube is getting me to the bag. YouTube is going to get me closer to the bag than Instagram ever would. And I mean, TikTok as well. Although I don't really have intentions to monetize my TikTok, I really just enjoy sharing over there and it feels more fun. But YouTube in the end is going to pay me for my content, and it gives me a platform where I can express myself in multiple ways, with long form videos, shorts, community posts. So yeah, I love YouTube, and I love sharing. I love sharing, but that leads me to the next thought is with how much is too much when it comes to sharing on social media. Yesterday, I'm sitting here, I just finished doing my yoga and meditation, and I was about to get in the shower because I was going to work yesterday. I started seeds, if y'all didn't know, and I have those videos on my page, and I'll timestamp them. I don't know if you could timestamp here, like I'll put the little thing in the corner, but I started my Snapdragon seeds yesterday. But I'm sitting here about to get in the shower before work, and my mom calls me. And, I answer, and I'm like, yeah. And she's like, why are you telling my business on YouTube? And I'm like, what? She said, yeah, and you're telling Khalees's business too. And I said, I need more information. So she goes, your podcast. Why'd you say that about me? She said, what did she say? She said, why'd you say that about me? You're not telling the truth. And I'm like, what? I need to know what I said because I'm being so honest with y'all. I don't remember things after I say, like, I don't know. I feel like remembering stuff I talked about is useless information in my head. Like, I don't have space to hold that. So I get it out, I say it, and then I post it, and then I erase my brain to make space for new. And I'm being so serious. Like, I don't retain things I've already talked about because for what? Like, that was in the past. I posted it, I'm moving on. So I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. She's like, what you said on your podcast. And I said, you need to tell me what I said because I don't remember. And she said, you said I don't cry and you never saw me cry. And I said, how's that not true if I never saw you cry? And she gonna say, that's because I'm a private person. I don't cry in front of anyone. So I said, so it is the truth. And she says, yeah, but it's my business. And I'm like, Mom, a part of me sharing and having a platform is sharing my life and my experiences. And I've never saw you cry, okay? And I mean, I don't know what you want me to do, And then my thing is when my family objects to anything I share on social media, my immediate response is, you want to get this bread, don't you? Do you not want to get this bread? A part of getting this bread is me sharing. And you are a part of my story and my experience. It's not a lie. You don't cry in front of nobody. She's like, that's because I'm private. I said, all right, Mom. And that was the end of that. Like, we haven't had more discussions on it because she know I'm finna get on here and tell her business. Like, but that's the thing. How much is too much and what business is not okay to share? Because I feel like in sharing, you find connection. And that's often why I share. And also, to bring it back to the astrology, I am a Mars and a Moon in my 10th house. So my Sagittarius Mars and my Sagittarius Moon sit in my 10th house of, I think it's public identity. So it's how the public sees you in your work, I think. All right, I had to grab my book, my astrology book. So this is The Only Astrology Book You'll Ever Need by Joanna Martine Woolfolk, okay? And I wanted to read you all what the 10th house is because I'm no astrologer. I make that very clear. I'm just a girl who likes astrology. I'm not an astrologer. I can't read your chart, none of that. But in her book, she says the 10th house of career and public standing. Its opposite house, the 4th house, which rules home. The 10th house rules all matters outside the home, your profession, your status in the community, and your public reputation. It has been called the house of ambition, aspiration, and attainment. This house also reveals in what esteem you are held by others. The 10th house reflects your image as shown in the power, position, and honors that you may achieve. It is an outward expression of your talents, the way you accept responsibility, the place you arrive at through your own efforts. This house has a great influence on your material success. Like I said, my moon and my Mars are both in my 10th house. So having a moon in 10th house, this is what the book says, it's the planet of emotions and instincts. You are involved with the public in career, professional, or social activities, and perhaps will not have much private life. See, I gotta tell my business. There is the possibility that you will change your occupation in midlife. Bro, I'm a 35. I just became a freaking gardener at 33. And the moon in this house brings career benefits through women or female members of your family. Good point. You're intuitive about what the public wants. Bad point, a risk of a public scandal. And I would say I had my little public scandal, but I shared my business willingly. I don't have anything to hide. I don't have anything to hide. And then we'll move on to my Mars in my 10th house, which is the planet of energy and assertiveness. You have an energy and initiative in career matters and will likely dominate other people. You're ambitious and competitive, and you strive for independence or to get rid of interference. Your self reliance and executive ability should bring status within your occupation. Good point. You deal with practical problems rather than vague theories. Bad point. Possibility of frustration due to unrealized goals. So there you have it. And with those being in Mars, with those both being in Sagittarius, a fire sign, the way that I do express myself can be seen as very assertive, fiery, because there's a lot of passion there. There's a lot of passion there in my emotions and in my actions. And with those being in how the public sees me, it makes sense. It makes sense. And honestly, I feel very comfortable. It feels natural for me to tell my business. It does. Because at the end of the day, what is anybody going to do? I don't care if people talk about me because I don't know what people talk about when they're not directly in front of my face. And anyone who is going to talk about me, so they don't like me, we're not friends, whatever, I have them blocked. And I don't check for anybody who I don't like. So sharing publicly on social media, whether it's my wins or losses, does not really affect me. And sharing my losses, I don't mind sharing them because I always bounce back. There's a testimony for all of my troubles. But that's why, so that's what led me to think about how much is too much, because when is sharing my business, and when is talking about my family, sharing their business. But I do think some things are important to process publicly because, like I said, sharing builds connection. And I'm about connection. I love connecting with people. And one thing I want people to know is that you're not the only one. I know we're individual and we have individual experiences and we have experiences that are unique to ourselves, but we are not the only ones who experience things. And I think that holds a lot of people back from connecting with one another because we think we're the only one going through something. So we don't talk about it because we feel nobody will understand us. But there are people out there who will understand. There are people out there who are willing to listen. But if we're not willing to share, we will never find those people who we can connect with. I'm not talking about trauma dumping, I'm talking about genuinely sharing our experiences because everyone's experience doesn't have to be rooted in trauma. So when it comes to sharing, my mom doesn't cry. Somebody else might be like, yeah, my mom doesn't cry either. And this is how it impacted me. And it's a way to discuss those feelings, but also a way to discuss how we can heal through that and how we can change that with our own actions. Because I already told y'all I don't cry because my mom doesn't cry in front of me. I don't cry in front of people either. Well, I do now. I do cry. But at one time I held back those tears for a lot of years because I didn't like people to see me that emotional. And now I do cry in front of people because what do you want to do? Be mean to a crying girl? You're going to be mean to me while I'm crying? You're evil. You know what I mean? And I'm not trying to weaponize my tears, but I have no problem with sharing my emotions in that way anymore. I don't. If I want to cry, I'm going to cry because I'm not going to hold it in. And, I be on TikTok and they said that, I don't know if a doctor said this, but they said that women, it was specifically talking about women, but they said holding in your emotions can lead to autoimmune diseases. You need to let it out because holding it in can literally make you sick. That just makes me think about all the times where I held back my emotions and especially holding back with speaking. And if y'all been around for a while, I used to have throat issues. They started in 2015 and it started with me, my left tonsil started swelling up, but it was very small. It was a very small swelling, didn't bother me that much. And by the time 2019 hit, my left tonsil was constantly inflamed. And I got a tonsillectomy. And that tonsillectomy one was the most painful thing I've ever experienced in my whole entire life. but I was under the assumption that the tonsillectomy would fix my throat issue, and it didn't. It didn't at all. And I still would go back to the ENT. And when I went back the first time for like a follow up appointment, he put the microscope down my throat. And I can't remember this doctor's name. This is when I was living in Illinois. But he was the first doctor that I feel like ever listened to me about my throat. He's the first one that ever even went and actually looked down my throat, you know? Like the one who did my tonsillectomy, I was like, I need my tonsils out. And he was like, all right, we'll do it. But this doctor actually took the little thing, put it up my nose, and took the camera, went down my throat, and looked at my throat. And he was like, your throat is very, very irritated. And I was like, I mean, yeah, I can feel I can feel the irritation. It's uncomfortable. And he was like, well, let's do a blood test. We'll test your blood to see if you have any food allergies. Through that blood test, I found out I was allergic to yeast, oat, wheat, rye, and mold, which means I'm also allergic to mushrooms. And I didn't know this. And at this time, I was vegan. Don't you know I was throwing the mushrooms back? I was eating mushrooms like they were chicken. I cut out, all the foods. Well, no, I'm not even gonna say I cut out all the foods because I still eat bread because that yeast got a hold on me. And then with the yeast allergy, there's also so many other things that activate yeast in your body, like sugars. And so the yeast allergy is very hard. All of them are really very hard to avoid, but I have managed to avoid mushrooms, even though I love mushrooms. I've managed to avoid them. But even when limiting those foods and avoiding them, I was still having throat issues. I was still having throat issues. Even after the tonsillectomy, even after being mindful about my allergies, I still had throat discomfort. And I went to the ENT just last year because I'm like, doctor, it feels like there's a pocket in my throat. And it feels like when I eat, stuff just goes into that pocket and I can't swallow it. So he went and looked at my throat, did the camera, and we're looking at it together. And he's like, there's nothing in your throat. Like, your throat looks completely fine. And I'm like, am I crazy? I can feel it. I can feel this in my throat. I feel it, doc. And he's like, your throat is fine. Like, there's nothing visually that I can see that would be causing any discomfort in your throat. This is my theory. My theory is that my throat was directly tied to my people pleasing tendencies, telling people what they wanted to hear, even if it made me feel uncomfortable, telling people it was okay, even when it wasn't okay, and being in spaces where I was not allowed to use my voice, where I wasn't allowed to be my authentic self. And when I finally disconnected from all of those spaces, I would say like last year was when I cut the cord on communities and people who I felt like I could not be me around. Throat issues gone. Y'all, my throat does not hurt anymore. My throat does not hurt anymore at all. And it's not like I've completely cut out my allergens because I still eat bread sometimes. You know what I mean? Still not eating mushrooms, but even with still having the foods that I'm allergic to and being mindful about eating them, I don't have throat issues because I speak my truth now. I say what I have to say. I don't hold anything in. I don't hold anything in. Nothing. Growing up in the church, just growing up as a PK, it was a lot of seen and not heard, right? And you have to be mindful of how you act because, especially at church, because you're the pastor's daughter. And I've learned to just keep my mouth shut. I've learned to just not say anything. I've learned to stir the pot. I mean, not to stir the pot. But now I'm not going to say I love conflict because that's a little too much, but I don't mind saying how I feel because one, what is anybody going to do? And that's not to sound all big and bad or anything, but I've grown to learn that the worst things that anybody can do to me are not talk behind my back or not make up lies about me. Is to to kill me. Honestly, the worst thing that anybody can do is to physically end my life. And if somebody wants to do that over yoga and gardening and a podcast because that's all I do, then so be it. And they reap what they sow. I'm not afraid to die. That's so extreme, but I'm genuinely not. And I used to be. I used to carry so much fear when it came to death and dying. And I'm not I'm not afraid anymore. And mostly because I've seen just how God, because I believe in God. Let me make that disclaimer. You're not getting anything else over here but belief in God. But I've seen how God moved in my life in these past 2 years just by showing me how protected I am and how safe I am and how my purpose and my destiny has not faltered only because people aren't in my life anymore. If anything, I've been pushed further into my purpose. And seeing how that works, seeing how God works, I can what Bruno Mars say, I could die with a smile because I never even thought I would make it to this point in life of finding things that I truly enjoy, finding people that I truly enjoy being around, and gravitating towards love that I never expected to experience in this lifetime. And I used to have this Herb Crafters tarot deck, and it was a herbal deck. I can't remember who it was by, but it was such a cute deck, and I can't find it. For some reason, I feel like one of my family members may have threw it away because it says tarot on it, and it is a deck, but it wasn't. But I can't find it. But one of the cards, I forget the herb, but it correlates your throat to your womb, and how healing your womb can help you heal your throat. And when you're comfortable with your sexual energy, you become more comfortable with speaking your truth and being who you are. And I can understand that in an aspect because I feel like I've gotten so much more comfortable being who I am. I don't have to hold back who I am, whether it's through speech or through actions to make other people comfortable. If anything, I'm not going to say I don't care about other people's comfort, but other people's comfort does not have an impact on my life. And that's not saying I don't care about people, because people know how to twist your words or whatever, but I don't feel comfortable if people are uncomfortable with my presence. I mean, I don't care if people feel uncomfortable with my presence. That's a them problem. That's not a me problem because this Misha will show up everywhere. I'm not leaving parts of me at home, parts of me somewhere else to make sure that you feel okay with me being in your space, to make sure your ego is okay with being overshadowed by my light. I don't play that anymore. And through that, there are certain places I can't be because it's too much for people to handle. I have to dumb down who I am and my personality for the comfort of others. And that's just not a game I'm willing to play anymore. And that's not a part of people pleasing that I want to be involved in. My people pleasing days are over. And that just made me remember some of my dad's notes, and they were sitting right over there. So I grabbed his notebook, and he has written down Psalms 23. It's a Psalms for tough times, and one of the things that can make our lives tougher is our enemies. And any of us who live our lives with purpose, passion, and destiny will have enemies. And he goes on to write, I'm assuming Winston Churchill said, "You have enemies? Good. That means you've stood up for something. Sometimes in your life," oh, I don't know what this says. Okay. It says, "You have enemies? Good. That means you stood up for something sometime in your life." And then he says, Eddie Contour, on the other hand, said about someone who tried hard to always be inoffensive. He hasn't an enemy in the world, but all his friends hate him. I interpret that as when you continuously aim to please people, you won't have enemies because you're constantly doing what people want you to do, but you're not being authentic to who you are. And if you're always aiming to be inoffensive, you don't have enemies, but all your friends hate you. And that resonates so deeply with me because I had to get comfortable with being disliked. And I'm telling y'all, that hurt me to the core. When I found out people didn't like me, or people that I thought were becoming my friends were talking about me behind my back, that hurt me so bad because I've always strived to be authentic and genuine with people. And I just couldn't understand. I'm like, well, why would people make up lies about me? Why would somebody say this about me when I've never done anything to them? And I'll just give y'all an example. The last time I was lied on, I was hanging out with these two women, and they were both friends. They've been friends for years. And one of the women I was trying to make plans with to go to the movie. So I sent her date, time, and location for the movie. You know, this was a friend thing. I sent her the date, time, and location on a Tuesday. And she texted me back on a Friday about 45 minutes before the movie saying she couldn't make it and have fun, whatever. One, disrespectful. And then the next day I saw the friend of the one who couldn't go to the movie, and the friend said, "Oh yeah, she said y'all didn't go to the movie because you kept playing games." What? Bold-faced lie. Bold-faced lie. And I could not understand, one, why she would lie on me like that. Two, why she would lie to her friend like that. But three, what would even make you conceive, like, what would even make you make that up in your mind to say to your friend when I didn't do that? And I spent a lot of time trying to understand why she would say that. But then I was like, Misha, the only thing you're going to do trying to figure out why people make up lies about you is make yourself crazy. And that is what I was doing. But then I realized that, I grew up in a church. People will let the devil use them. People will let the devil use them. And then people will see your consistency. People will see your empathy and your action and your follow through, and they will find reasons to discredit it. And if they can't discredit it with truth, they will make up lies. I had to get comfortable with being discredited, with being lied on, blatantly lied on, because it makes people uncomfortable for me to stand in my truth when people have to fake who they are to fit in. People have to fake who they are to build community. People have to fake who they are to find love. I don't have to do that. I don't have to do that. And in that, and being able to be authentic, being able to get on here, teach yoga and garden and be able to live and survive makes people uncomfortable, because how come Misha can do it and I can't? Because when they say comparison is the thief of joy, they're not lying. They're not lying. And I've had to become comfortable with my own unique identity and experience so that I do not compare myself to others. Because there are things other people have that I'm like, dang, I wish I had that, but I don't want theirs. I want my own. Like, I don't want what you have, but you having it lets me know that it's attainable and you can keep it. You can keep yours. I can get my own. Always say, everybody on this app knows Yoga with Adrian. And then, I don't know if I'll post this on other platforms, but YouTube, y'all know Yoga with Adrian, right? And I've always said, I don't want to be the next Yoga with Adrian. I'm Yoga with Mish, but I can be just as big or bigger than Yoga with Adrian, because if she can do it, why can't I? That's a rhetorical question. But if she can do it, why can't I? That's the question people need to start asking themselves. If she can do it, why can't I? Not why can't she do it? Why does she have this and not me? No, if she can do it, why can't I? And the answer is you can. You can. That's why I'm always like, I don't have any problem with people who garden and do yoga. Actually, I think more of us need to do this. I think more of us need to do it and stand in our truth while doing it, and knowing that if it's part of your purpose, everything will align and work out for you. Everything will align and work out for you. You will be taken care of. I know it's easier said than done, and the reason why it's easier said than done is because you have to have community. Nothing functions without community. And people will tell you, well, Misha's hyper independent. She don't want community. That's a lie. That's a lie. I mean, I may be hyper independent, but I do. I would even go as far to say I yearn for community. I do. And I do have community. That's why I'm able to do the things that I do with the community that I have in place now. And the reason why it is so easy for me to cut people off is because the community that I have in place and have had in place for years is solid. solid. I am surrounded by providers and protectors, and I reflect that same providing and protecting back to the people who are in my community. So when I meet new people and they're bringing anything besides love, providing and protecting, they can go. They can go. Personally, don't do small connections. I don't do small I don't do small anything. And I saw a post on TikTok. They were talking about Barney, and someone in the comments said Barney is the reason why I take friendship very serious. And I'm like, finally someone who understands me. Barney was my guy growing up. I was Barney head to toe. I'm talking about Barney shoes, Barney socks, Barney sweater, Barney pants, Barney ponytail, Barney barrettes, Barney. Still have my Barney stuffed animal. And Barney is the reason why my childhood bedroom to this day is purple. I'm not even gonna say loved, I love Barney. I love Barney. But I took friendship and community very serious. That was ingrained in me. What are you talking about? I love you. You love me. We're a happy family with a great big hug and a kiss from me to you. Won't you say you love me too? Come on. It was a shock to me when I grew up and I saw everybody didn't move like Barney. Like when there were secret competitions and gossip and backbiting, and I'm like, whoa, what did you grow up watching? Because I grew up watching Barney. We not the same. Right, I think I posed that question maybe on TikTok, and I asked the older, I don't want to say older millennials, because I'm 35. I don't know what range of millennial I am, but I asked like Gen X. I think that's what's before millennials. I asked Gen X, what did y'all grow up watching as children? Because y'all are not nice. Like y'all are not nice people, and y'all couldn't have grew up watching the stuff I grew up watching, because I grew up watching children's shows that really valued connection and friendship and love and openness and sharing. And y'all were not watching the same stuff I'm watching to be acting the way y'all are acting. And turns out a lot of them didn't watch any children's shows. They didn't watch anything. I think maybe Sesame Street might have just came out around that time. I don't know the exact year, but when a lot of them were growing up, there weren't any shows aimed to like educate children, talk about community, talk about differences. Those shows didn't exist. So I'm like, that makes sense why y'all are so mean. And don't take this personal. If you Gen X, I'm not specifically talking about a specific person, but I will say generationally, y'all are some bullies, because Gen X is also like the generation where you work with older black women in the workplace and they're not mean. I mean, they're not nice. They want you to compete with them. They don't want you to have it as easy. They want you to go through some sort of hazing. Those are the people that I'm talking about. And a lot of my experiences, whether it be workplace, community, friendships, should have turned me cold. Should have really turned me cold. And they almost did. I was so ready to hang up the towel on community, on friendships, on building, on getting to know people. I was so ready. But I was like, that is the goal. The goal is to make my heart cold. The goal is for me to believe that the genuine love and friendships and connections that I believe exist don't exist. That is the goal, because a world that is hurting wants you to hurt too. And the reality of my life is I exist in this world. What they say in not even the Bible, but in the church, I may be in the world, but I'm not of the world. Like my mind works a little different, and I'm okay with that. And a part of me being a dreamer is knowing that the connections that I dream about, the things that I've seen in my dreams that have already actualized, those things can also actualize in the form of community, in the form of friendship, in the form of romantic relationships. And I'm not allowing the hurt that I've endured in the past to stop me from being in alignment and receiving those things, because they may not all be here just yet, but it feels very close. It feels very close. And although I may not be physically, materially wealthy, I feel so rich in spirit. I feel so rich in love because I have people around me who support me. I have people around me who speak life into me. My best bud calls me brave, y'all. My best bud calls me brave. Do you know how encouraging that is for someone to see, to actually see the risk you've taken, the sacrifices you've made, and to call you brave for that? Come on, bro. Like, those are the type of people I have around me. So anything less than that, trying to come into my life and cause confusion, cause chaos, lie, blatantly lie, bold-faced lie, has to go. And there's no room for conversations when it comes to those things because people are very aware of their actions and what they're doing. People are very aware. And I've allowed that to go on so long. And that's why what I'm saying is you have to be okay with being disliked, because even if you're the most jolly, happy, giving, loving person, people will find ways to discredit your character in order to make themselves feel better about what they lack, the things they lack, and their incapability of being honest. So in yoga, there are the 8 limbs of yoga, and one of those 8 limbs is yamas, and the yamas relate to the ethical standards and integrity, in a yoga practice. And under that, there is something called satya, and satya is the practice of truthfulness, which means being honest and transparent with others and yourself. I used to call myself a storyteller, but I've transitioned that to being a truth teller because I tell the truth. And most importantly, I tell my truth. I genuinely take pride in having morals and having integrity and being honest. I take pride in that because that is how my parents, Albert and Brenda, raised me. And I know that my truthfulness offends people. It offends people because how dare I say what's on my mind? How dare I speak the truth when I'm not allowed to, when I don't have the credentials to do so? you know, when I've only been practicing yoga for this many years, when I only have this many teaching hours, how dare I be honest and truthful in my practice? So if people don't like me for being honest, who cares? Who cares? Because one thing I will never let society do or anyone do is make me sick from holding back. I don't want to develop any autoimmune disease, and I'm not saying it like people who have autoimmune diseases or anything like that. I'm not trying to say it in that way, but if it can be avoided by speaking my truth about living in authenticity, why would I not do that? Why would I ever hold anything back for the sake of being liked? Those days are over. They are over. I think I said all of this to say, I said all of this to say that there is so much connection that can be found in authenticity and being yourself. And we can often find ourselves in spaces where we cannot be 100% ourselves. One, because we are people pleasing, we are trying to be liked, and we don't want to be disliked. Telling you now, if you are disliked for who you are doing something right. If you are being disliked and you are not hurting anyone with your truth, you are not physically, emotionally, you are not abusing anyone with your truth, stand in it, because it will make the people who are not living in their truth uncomfortable. It will shine a light on their shadows that they're not ready to face yet. So keep being you, keep standing in your truth, and don't be afraid to share. Don't be afraid to share, because what's the worst that can happen? What's the worst that can happen? If somebody's going to kill you for your truth, then that's on them. They're going to reap whatever they sow. But if you know you're standing in your authenticity and being who you are and being the person that God called you to be, continue to stand in that, because it'll irritate people's demons. It will irritate them. But you know who you are. You know what you stand for. And going back to my dad's notes, he has Psalms 23, verse 5. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. And he goes on to say, all of you that don't like me will see how God treats me and will realize that I have favor with God. And I believe everyone has favor. I do. I don't believe I'm God's favorite and, I had to be favored. I believe everyone has favor. but I believe everyone does not believe in their favor. And I believe in God's favor, and I believe that everything that I desire will manifest in my life if it's according to my highest good. And I believe and I know that I am breaking generational curses before me and after me so that my family and I can eat. And my friends and my people who have supported me can eat. Okay? And the feast will be good. And the feast will be televised. 10,000, baby. The feast will be seen. It will be seen by all. I think that's all I have for today because y'all don't want me to start preaching because I'll get started. But yeah, that's just a stream of thought that I had today and what I felt led to share on my heart. So I'm going to listen back to this and get the little timestamps up. So hopefully that works on podcast. I'm not too sure. I've never done it this way, but I thank you all so much for listening and connecting with me and allowing me to share in this way. And if any of this resonated with you, please like the video, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel so that you can be notified when there are more videos, when I post more podcast episodes or more videos or, whatever in ways that I'm sharing my journey with you all. So yeah, continue to share. How much is too much? That's up for you to decide. But you're not the only one who is going through things. You have your own unique experience, but we can connect on our experiences because we are more alike than you think. And the only way to build community and to build connection is to share, and to share in ways where if you are sharing trauma with each other, also sharing how you can heal that trauma and grow from that trauma, not staying stuck in it, not enabling bad behaviors that continue to push that trauma, but how can you build with one another and build in community to heal from your trauma. And that is a reminder that I do teach yoga and meditation on this page. So if you're looking for ways to connect with your body and connect with your breath, please check out Yoga with Mish, and please check out my meditation playlist to help you work through these things that you may be carrying, because we do not want to develop diseases and sickness from holding back from being who we truly are. There are spaces and places where you can be yourself. There are spaces and places where you can show up and people will love you for that. And you do not have to people please. You do not have to manipulate for community. There are places where that can grow organically because community is important, but it's important to find people who protect you, who love you, and who are honest with you, and who stand in their own truth. And at the same time, you all can stand in truth together. So thank you all. And I will see you back next week for another episode of the Pieces of Mish podcast.